Dire warning today of a possible shutdown of Kibu renal unit outpatient department. The Kidney Disease Association fears the unit's ballooning deaths and high cost of consumables will come back soon to haunt patients. The facility was closed in May this year, with managers pointing to a 4 million CD debt that made operations impossible. Convener of the association, Kwame Bafo Ahinkra, wants government to find a lasting solution.
Once again, the government have to come in because 32 euros. You come back to Ghana, you pay import duties and then taxes on it. So government to look at the tax component on these consumables, they to try and scrap it off so that when they bring these consumables, it will go down, and then we the patient we can pay maybe realistic price, because once you put the charges on it, it will go up, and when they bring it to us, we cannot pay.
Now, the Health Minister, Kweku Agyeman-Manu, was summoned to appear in Parliament to brief the House on the situation at the Kibu Teaching Hospital. We'll take you there live shortly. But first, let's take a look at the issue so far. What do we know about the situation at the renal unit? And first, we know that the renal unit was shut down to outpatients in May 2023 due to high costs of medical consumables and a 4 million CD debt. We also know that the hospital had earlier tried to increase the fees for dialysis from 380 CDs to 765 CDs. That was woefully rejected, and the development sparked widespread public discussion amid calls for a reopening of the unit. Now, we also know that the unit reopened to outpatients department on November 6th, something we told you here on News Central. And management of the hospital want Parliament to approve new fees for the facility for obvious reason. There's a 4 million CD debt on the facility. We also know that the Health Minister is expected to justify closure and outline measures to keep the unit functional. So what's he saying in Parliament? That's where we are going now. My colleague, Komla Kluche, is on the ground for us. Komla, we are back to this issue. This time, hopefully, there will be development. What does it look like in Parliament as far as the Health Minister is concerned? Is he even there yet?
Mr. Agyeman-Manu is on the floor answering questions, but not on the renal unit of the Kibu Teaching Hospital. The questions that he's asking, for instance, now he is answering questions on the anthrax, which was filed, way back at the last meeting. These are answers he's gotten now. And if you look also at the other paper, which is the running order for today's sitting, it doesn't have Kweku Agyeman-Manu listed as giving an update on what the situation at the renal unit of the Kibu Teaching Hospital is like. But we know that because they are a house of their own rules, there could be what we call an order paper addendum, which could have him come back to make a statement. And that, of course, is what is expected. A statement he needs to make to be able to explain the situation at the Kibu Teaching Hospital renal unit. But away from that, we have only the National Security Minister, who is to apprise the House on the alleged brutality of civilians by the military in Garu and Timpani and their environs in the Upper East region on October 29, following alleged attacks on some national security operatives by some youths in the area on the 24th. This is the only thing that is listed here as to be attended to. But like I did say, he's on the floor now answering questions, but not on the renal unit of the Kibu Teaching Hospital.
That sounds disappointing. Komla, hold your thoughts for me. We'll come back to you because there's more issue in Parliament. What we understand is the military team on October 29th stormed Garu and Timpani in the Upper East region. We know that one person has died as a result of that. What we also understand is the National Security Minister will be in Parliament to answer questions. We'll go back to Parliament right now. Komla Kluche, tell us, what should we expect as far as Kandapa's appearance is concerned?
Kandapa is not in the house as we speak, even though he's been listed. Once he's been listed, it does appear that yes, he's in the known. The program has been done for today. But as I speak, he's not in the house. But the expectation is that he will come and apprise the house on the situation regarding the brutality of some civilians by the military in the Garu and the Timpani area of the Upper East region. But the format he's going to take is just a statement. So he will make the statement and there will be contributions. The rules of the House does indicate that once the minister comes to make a statement, the only thing that is important is for members of parliament to contribute to it. They only contribute to it, but it should not engender debate. And so he would only come and be giving responses or be giving a situational report on what it is. We are also aware that through the Deputy Majority Leader, Alexander Penyo-Market, last week, Thursday, he indicated that those civilians that were picked up by the BNI of Hope,
right.
They are no longer in custody now. They have been left off the hook, but they've been released to go back into the Garu area. As to the extent of the investigations and all that, all those are some of the things that the minister is supposed to also answer. But on the side, I have been speaking with the Zebila MP, Cletus Avoka, who wants the minister to prove that these individuals, there was a search on them and that they found weapons, and also there should be evidence that they attacked the national security operatives.
Right. I can only imagine that much more will come out of the hearing in Parliament. We'll keep an eye on it. Thank you so much, Komla, for reporting on that. Komla Kluche there, he joined us from Parliament. Now, in a related development, the Kusak People's Congress, KPC, is calling on government to establish a committee of inquiry into the military abuse. President of KPC, Professor John Azuma, says security officers involved must be brought to book. Meanwhile, DCE for Tempane, Isaka Anabida, insists the assault is an attack on the chiefs and traditional leaders of the area. But first, here's President of the KPC, Professor John Azuma.
We are demanding an independent inquiry into what happened in Garu and Bugri. And we want compensation to all the victims who have been brutalized in this incident. And we want those who committed these crimes, those who gave the orders, and those who came and did the beating, they should all be brought to account.
We condemn the act because the attack that happened was an attack on the chiefs and the people of the area, as well as we as district chief executives, because we were not aware of their presence in Garu and Tempani.
Now let's speak to our correspondent on the ground and gauge the mood in the Garu area. Castro Senyala is there for us. Castro, thank you so much for joining us here on the news. We know residents have been agitating since the military abuse in that area. Tell us what's happening there now. What does it look like in Garu and the Timpani areas?
Committee, we understand. Hello?
Right, go ahead. We can hear you.
Yes, so Kemini, at the moment, calm has restored to Garu. We all understand that Garu was not part of, it's not part of the conflict area primarily, aside from the fact that the recent disturbances as far as the military brutality was concerned is what probably, sent the attention to Garu. So after they've moved out and everything has, following all that they've done, calm has been restored to the area and everything is going on smoothly. I can report that I have spoken to quite a number of opinion leaders within the Garu area who have told me that aside from the demonstration that they staged yesterday to call on the government and other bodies or the authorities or the government to yield to their demands, everything is cool and calm, and they are hoping that the authorities will pay attention to the raised.
Indeed, Castro, we'll leave it here for now. Thank you so much for reporting that. Castro Senyala joined us from the Garu Timpani area, where he's been observing the situation since the military abuse occurred over there. There's more news coming up. Moana, what's happening?
Well, we're talking the delayed General Hospital reconstruction, because that continues to be a worry for a lot of the residents there. And my colleague Evelyn Tingma is currently at the demolished site at La, where the Member of Parliament for La Dade-Kotopon constituency, Rita Odole Soa, she's going to be joining us shortly with a bit more details. But all throughout yesterday, we've been providing details for you as to what has been unhappiness on the part of the resident, some of who say that if the opportunity is given to them, they'll reconstruct the hospital themselves. Let's take you there now, where my colleague Evelyn Tingma has been engaging the Member of Parliament for the area.
The demolition and reconstruction of the La General Hospital is not just a concern to the people of La, but surrounding communities as well. The Member of Parliament for La Dade-Kotopon constituency, Rita Odole Soa, is equally worried. She has been speaking on this matter, and she joins me this afternoon for a conversation. Thank you very much, Honorable, for your time, and you are live on TV3.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to your cherished viewers.
So how troubling is this matter to you as representative of the people?
Yeah, for the issue of the La General Hospital, I have sleepless nights. It's a burden on my heart because the people are not able to access healthcare properly. If I say properly, we now have a polyclinic. It's a very small place, and now the people have to go to the private hospitals, which is quite expensive, and so it's so worrying. And as Member of Parliament, I raised the question on the floor of Parliament. The Minister of Health has come several times to answer questions on this hospital, and they keep promising that the hospital will kickstart. But there is nothing on site, as we see. And again, I've made a statement on the floor of Parliament calling on the government to make sure that they come and start the reconstruction. But what did we hear on the floor of Parliament? The majority leader, Honorable Oseche Mensah Bonsu, said his own, and he went that IMF, because of the IMF that Ghana is going to, they had to halt the yes, the sponsors have withheld their part of the bargain. An amount of 68 million euro was approved by Parliament in 2019 for the reconstruction of the hospital. But as we speak, the money is nowhere to be found.
So I remember on Tuesday when you raised the matter on the floor, MP for Ododo Nilante Vanderpoy said that government will have to include the La project and the La hospital project in the 2024 budget. Otherwise, he is going to mobilize the youth of Gan and Gamashi to protest and all that. Do you support this call from the Honourable Member?
I do support it 100%. They promised again that they were going to construct it under Agenda 111. In the budget for 2023, they captured it in a small place, La General Hospital, Agenda 111. And up till now, and even the Agenda 111, we have the regional type of Agenda 111, we have the district type of Agenda 111. Which one are they constructing for Dade-Kotopon? They have not even come back to the chiefs and people to explain to us that because we cannot construct it, this is the way we want to go. The project has delayed due to this, due to that. The regional minister said November. The MCE for the assembly, we have a municipal assembly, led La Dade-Kotopon Municipal Assembly. Recently, the MCE is captured on the Ghanaian Times newspaper, last week. And he also goes like, the construction is starting this November. Minister of Health is coming to Parliament next week to let us know the source of funding. And so, if approval is given, is it feasible that come this November, before ending of November, the contractor is going to move to site? We have become doubting Thomases. We don't believe them anymore. We don't trust the government anymore, because it's like they are politicking with the health and the lives of the good people of Dade-Kotopon. So they should come clean. They promised to reconstruct it in 2 years. That was from 2020, 2021, 2022. They were supposed to hand over the facility. No foundation has been dug. Are they going to start because elections is around the corner in 2020?
So that's the MP for La Rita Odole Soa speaking to my colleague Evelyn Tengma. We've been forced to take that feed away because we understand that the health minister right now is currently addressing Parliament on a number of these issues. Let's take you there right now for quick updates on that address by the health minister.
30 patients on the free dialysis program. This is the ceiling on total number of beneficiaries specified by First Sky Group of companies. This constitutes over 80% of the patients receiving treatment at the renal unit and accounts for over 80% of the renal unit's revenue. Mr. Speaker, for the past 2 years, the payment schedule initially agreed on with First Sky Group of companies has been fraught with delays. Due to these delays, the RDU continues to accrue exchange rate losses, which has made it difficult for the RDU to service the monthly payment to the partner. Mr. Speaker, let me use this opportunity to thank once again the First Sky Group of companies for this massive philanthropic gesture, which has supported Kolebu and patients for the last 6 years. Mr. Speaker, in view of these challenges, Kolebu has accrued a total debt of a little over 4 million Ghana cedis to its partner. Furthermore, it remains a fact that the current charge of 380 cedis for dialysis is insufficient to enable the RDU to generate enough revenue to fulfill its full obligations under the contract with FMC, especially as it does not have a hedged exchange rate per annum regime. This has compromised the ability of the RDU to raise the funds required to pay for consumables procured from FMC promptly. Mr. Speaker, again, due to the high incidence of patients requiring dialysis, the total cost of care keeps rising, adding to the accumulation of debt. Mr. Speaker, it must be noted that currently patients on dialysis are not on the National Health Insurance Scheme. Mr. Speaker, the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, in consultation with the Minister of Health, has initiated discussions with FMC for review of the current contract for more flexible payment options and a more structured supply of consumables to avoid excessive delays and to ensure delivery of the outstanding 45 dialysis machines and auxiliary equipment to boost the service being rendered. Mr. Speaker, in the meantime, the RDU has been opened to the public since Monday, 6 November 2023, to add patients as directed by the ministry. The MOH has since made a request to the Minister of Finance to settle the total indebtedness of the 4 million Ghana cedis. And the good news now is that the Minister for Finance has just approved the disbursement of this 4 million to support our patients in Kolebu. Way forward. To forestall the recurrence of this unfortunate situation, the Ministry, in collaboration with Kolebu and the Minister of Finance, is considering one of the following options: the possible inclusion of dialysis on the National Health Insurance Benefit Package, the granting of subsidies based on proposal received from Kolebu, and the possible review of the tariffs to ensure sustainability of the services. And Mr. Speaker, it may interest you to note that the private health facilities charge between 800 and 1,300 Ghana cedis for just a session of dialysis. The decision on the options enumerated above, Mr. Speaker, will be announced as soon as practicable. Mr. Speaker, as part of our non-communicable diseases roadmap, the Ministry and its agencies will continue to raise awareness for prevention and early detection to reduce renal disease and minimize the burden on the renal units in the health sector. When this is realized, the total cost of care and the need for dialysis will be brought to the barest minimum. Mr. Speaker, government has invested, with the support of Parliament, by approving facilities for us in the construction of a 100-bed ultramodern urology and nephrology center of excellence at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, which will be commissioned by the end of the first quarter next year, 2024. This is aimed at facilitating the provision of kidney transplantation services among others. Mr. Speaker, this will further reduce the dialysis burden on the nation and the need for Ghanaians to travel abroad for these services. A local team has been trained to provide these services, transplantation services, at reduced cost, and have already undertaken the first few kidney transplantations successfully in country by our Ghanaian doctors. Mr. Speaker, I believe this is the beginning of the government's vision of making Ghana a hub for medical tourism. Mr. Speaker, I believe there is hope ahead of all of us Ghanaians. I thank you.
And so that's the Health Minister Kwaku Agyeman-Manu briefing Parliament. Let's just walk you briefly through a number of the things that he's been saying. And for starters, that 4 million cedis indebtedness by the renal unit of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital is to be cleared by the Finance Ministry. The Health Minister has just made that announcement right now in terms of expectations going forward. And a review is to be expected with the contract of FMC, which I believe is one of the agencies responsible for bringing in the consumables for the dialysis as well. There's going to be a renegotiation on that part, and then a review of tariffs of services, and then enrolling the dialysis treatment on the National Health Insurance Scheme. And so there's some good news already. The center has been open, was open as of Monday. Now we get the understanding that the 4 million cedis debt is to be paid by the Ghanaian government. Finance Ministry is to allocate funds. The ministry, per what we understand, has agreed to this and is already ready in itself for disbursement in that regard. Now, away from this to other pressing matters, because there could be yet another spillage of the Akosombo Dam. As to when and what volumes and its potential impact, that is currently unknown, even as the impact of the recent spilling continues to hang over the heads of the 40,000 plus individuals, both young and old, who were affected. Energy Minister Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh, however, had cause to justify the decision to spill excess water, arguing it was the lesser evil in the grand scheme of things. Let's walk you through exactly what the minister had to say when he made his appearance in Parliament. And so, out of the many things the minister said, he said that the controlled spillage led to the preservation of lives, and that the Akosombo Dam and the Sogakofa Bridge were all saved as a result of the controlled spillage, which we saw for over 30 days. He adds that it is never true that there is a point mark for VRA to spill. What is true is that there is a point mark for the dam's integrity, which VRA works towards. And he went on to say that he can put forward that there was no point mark for which they were seeking to spill. But the devastating floods in Fievie in the Volta region as a result of the dam spillage has left the Richard Novati Catholic Hospital in disarray. The aftermath has forced the transfer of deceased individuals and the community's access to healthcare remaining at a standstill. The situation is no different at the Kamboni Hospital, as it remains locked up and empty after bodies were moved out when the place got flooded. My colleague Gordon Asideba reports.
If it breaks its plan, we're going to be in trouble, so we have no choice but to close down the facility.
Okay. We realized that some of the water made its way into the facility. Did it damage some of your items?
With regards to the hospital itself, what happened is that items, equipment were not damaged because we had to move them to safety.
Okay.
In the process of moving them to safety, because we're in a hurry, certainly certain equipment parts were breaking down.
This is the Kamboni Hospital mortuary, and if you clearly followed the dam spillage here in the Volta region, this was one of the facilities that made its way into the headlines after it was submerged, after the dam spillage, you could clearly tell that it was a big worry for the facility heads because they had to move over 200 dead bodies from the facility to a bigger hospital, which happens to be the district hospital here in Fievie in the Volta region. At the moment, you can clearly see that the impact of the floods is painted heavily here. On the floor, you can see debris that has been packed up and was brought here by the flood waters on the floor here as well, due to the facility holding the water for a very long time. There have been some huge visible cracks that have been created here. If you come with me to this point, is where they usually wash the dead bodies before they prepare them for burial. This here is where they put the bodies on top before they bring them inside one of these rooms. Here, if you come, you can see that there has been a mounted structure here where they place the dead bodies on top, wash them. A hole has been created in the middle part of it where the remaining water drops to the tunnels to a sewage point where they reserve the dirty water and later dispose it in a hygienic way. This is also another room. You can see some calabashes on top of the mounted brick. You can clearly tell that that is what they use to fetch water from these plastic, buckets and pails here to wash the bodies properly before they're being taken to the cemetery area. So, yeah, very disturbing. But we have been speaking to Aaron, who happens to be the medical director of the facility, and he has been telling me that they are making preparations to ensure that by the 1st of December, this place will be fumigated so that business will soon begin again.
Okay, so I think on the 11th, the water was just behind the mortuary. So we met together with the...
That's my colleague Godwin Asidiba from the Fievie area in the Volta region, and the ravages of that dam spillage still quite very evident for all to see. And it's interesting that it looks like we're not really out of the woods yet, with the expectation that in the near future there could be yet another spillage. As to what extent, really, that's not quite clear just as yet.
That's a shame, isn't it, to know that there could be more disaster on hand in the very near future. But what I'm excited about is the 4 million cedis that will be going out to the renal unit outpatient department of the Kibu Teaching Hospital. That is good development to hear. But let me ask you, when was the last time you heard the name Alfred Agbashi-Woyome? When was the last time you heard?
That's been quite a while.
It's been a while. 9 long years.
Yeah, he resurrected the conversations on judgment debt in these parts.
Absolutely.
It was a really big conversation as to whether or not we're going to get our monies and all that.
Well, on Ghana Remembers today, we focus on the most talked about judgment debt payment to the businessman Alfred Agbashi-Woyome. Don't go away. We'll be right back. It was that single judgment debt payment that got a whole nation talking. Songs were composed, a commission set up to investigate the matter as politicians blamed each other. The Alfred Agbashi-Woyome judgment debt. That's coming up in Ghana.
Now, the opposition Democratic Party says it will mount pressure on government to collect 130 million cedis, which is the current equivalent of the 51.2 million cedi judgment debt paid to Alfred Woyome.
Communications Director of the party, Nana Kumia, was addressing a news conference in Accra.
Ghanaians should demand the prosecution of all government and public officials who facilitated this fraud, this mistake, this great loot and share. This country is already suffering too much.
Yeah, I know I just jogged that memory, but when was the last time you gave a care to the story? I know someone who does. Joseph Akablay is here with me in the studio. Joseph, talk to us. In fact, let's start from, where's Woyome in the first place?
He's around. He's in the country. I mean, going about with his business activities, among other things.
I see. Has he given us all our money?
No, he still owes us. I mean, but this is a story that goes way beyond 2015 when we had that particular clip that was played. I mean, it had to do with the CAN 2008 tournament. Ghana had won, and we had decided that we're going to try and construct and rehabilitate certain stadia in order to organize the tournament.
Indeed.
And so because of that, various companies were awarded contracts to try and find money. And now an international company was given the contract. Eventually, Mr. Woyome sprang up in all the conversation to make a claim that he had done some financial engineering, and because of that, the nation owed him. They eventually ended up paying him the 51.2 million cedis that the Supreme Court said was a wrongful payment because the said contract with the international company was of an international nature that required parliamentary approval. And since that had not happened, the money should be returned to the state. And so that is how we got to the level where he was asked to refund the 51.2 million cedis.
And he took us up in international court,
yes,
didn't he? Talk to us about that. Remind us.
He exhausted all mechanisms in the country. So there was the Supreme Court judgment, there was a review. He went to the African court, and at all levels, the court disagreed with his argument that his rights as a Ghanaian was being abused in the manner by which the country was conducting itself in relation to him. He had contended always that he was a Ghanaian who had conducted business with the country and was deserving of the payments that were made to him. But the courts at all levels, including the ECOWAS court, disagreed, and he had no choice but to now face the consequence of the music, i.e. refund the 51.2 million cedis to the state.
I see. And we know that some properties of his were also captured by the state. What were those? And
so there were two houses at the Trasaco Valley Estates areas. That's where the state took possession of and wanted to sell. But unfortunately, they were not getting buyers. The reason is that people feared that if there was a change in government, there's the potential that they could go back and hand the property over to him again. And so what happened was National Security was asked to purchase those properties from the state. The auctioneers were tasked by the court to sell it. And so in terms of the total recovery, 18.5 million cedis recovered, leaving outstanding amount of 32.7 million cedis. The two houses that were sold, we know they've been sold, and still those monies are outstanding that the state is trying to recover. The Attorney General's office makes the point that they are taking steps to identify other properties. What has accounted for the delay in the recovery is the fact that it's a lot of court cases. At every point, they identify a property that they want to sell. Someone comes in and claims to be the owner of that property, and the AG has to go and battle it out in court before they come to a conclusion and they get a clearance to sell it. The businessman on his own voluntarily paid just 4 million cedis directly. The rest is from proceeds from the sale of the two houses, where the other being cash sums that were seized from a number of accounts officers, about 13 of them that were identified by the Attorney General's office.
Well, you really indeed have the lowdown. Thank you so much for joining us here, Joseph Akablay. There, you're still here on News Central, and it's interesting to note that the story brings back a lot of nostalgia if you were in Ghana at that time. And Joseph, you and I are still on the television, and so let's talk about the nostalgia that brings you.
I was quite young then, but I mean, it was a matter that we couldn't take our eyes off. I mean, it was all over. I remember the song, Woyome, 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 Woyome. Do you remember it?
I do. Now, you know, I do remember the song, but you've got me guessing your age when you tell me you were quite young then.
Oh, relatively younger. Let me say relatively younger. Yeah, relatively younger.
I get it. But we've come a long way. Yeah. It looks like there's no end in sight for it.
In fact, there's a second aspect of this matter. We'll look at broadly at the issue of judgment debts, and we'll be tracking how much judgment that this government has paid from 2017. So that is one thing that our viewers can look forward to.
Absolutely. We look forward to that engagement because we had one recently from the UK.
The GPGC one, that some properties belonging to the state had been attached. The Trafigura contracts.
That's a shame, isn't it?
Yes, unfortunately.
So we'll talk more about it on Ghana Remembers another time. Yeah. You want to stay on with us for that. But there's more news coming up. Here's Mawena.
Rightly so, a lot more news because public junior high schools continue to grapple with the challenge of a lack of textbooks. In the last 4 academic years, supply of course books in the 4 main subjects, maths, English, science, and creative arts, have been in short supply. Executive Director of Education think tank Africa Education Watch, Kofi Asare, says there is an urgent need for the Finance Minister to make allocation for the 2024 budget. He has been speaking at the Media General Star Ghana Foundation Dialogue on Education Financing.
In our meeting, the Minister of Finance 2 weeks ago, we indicated quite clearly that we want to see the deficits in the textbooks being budgeted for by the Ministry of Finance in this year's budget. We reckon that junior high school curriculum was rolled out about 4 years ago, the Common Core. But again, similar to what public primary schools went through, we are entering the 4th academic year. It's actually worrying. And so having full cognizance of what basic schools went through in the first 4 years without books, we believe that that should inform and create a sense of urgency for the Minister of Finance to make allocations for the procurement of junior high school textbooks in the 2024 budget.
Oh, and there I am on television again. Meanwhile, a professor at the University of Ghana, Jonathan Fletcher, says financing of education should not be left in the hands of the government alone. He believes in order to achieve Goal 4 of the Sustainable Development Goal, which focuses on inclusive and equitable education, all stakeholders must come aboard to support education financing. He spoke at the same event.
I do not believe that education should be the sole responsibility of the government, of any government at all. So I don't believe in that personally, and I believe that in addition to these sources, we need to look for other sources. So in some jurisdictions, you have people, individuals who are philanthropists supporting education. You have communities coming together to support education. We have families and households supporting education. And that is the only way we can achieve what we intend to achieve. So that's very important for me, from my personal experience, that it's important that we see education as an all-hand-on-deck affair, because I don't think government alone can do that. And so we are here today to look at all the possible sources of funding basic education in a way that we can sustain that and make sure that we achieve the Goal 4.
Welcome back to News Central. Now, they have already upset the bookmakers' favorites. The bright, sprightly stars from Ghana are turning opinions on its head and shining the light of the world again on women's football in the country. Ghana and WAFL B champions Ampem Dakwa ladies kickstart the CAF Women's Champions League campaign with a stellar win over defending champions AS FAR Club on Monday evening. And listen, I'll do you one better. Let's go to Ivory Coast now and speak to Abigail Sena Sosu, who is a sports journalist with the team. She's joining us live from Ivory Coast. Thank you so much, Abigail, for joining us here. Big performance on Monday against the reigning champions. Talk to us about this.
Thank you for having me as well this afternoon. Well, from Monday, it was a Herculean task for the team led by Coach Jordan Adakwa. I'm sure leaving Ghana, a lot of people did not give Ampem Dakwa that dog's chance, given that they were new entrants into this competition and had to kickstart with the defending champions. But if you speak to Coach Jordan Adakwa, they were venturing into doing something new and continuing to turn heads, like you said. So it was a day where they went into that game and thought this was it. We didn't come here just because of Asfar, but beating Asfar will go a long way to ignite that confidence we wish Ghanaians had in us.
Indeed, Abigail, let's make this. Indeed, Abigail, let's make this even better. Let's take a listen to the coach, Joe Adakwa.
Yeah. For this opportunity again. We won our first game. We are happy about that, but we are not done yet. We'll come to the second game with determination and everything so that we can win the next game. Yeah, we are done with the first game. We are happy. And we are going to work towards that game. We are not going to sit down and say we won the first match, so we are going to sleep. We will keep on working hard so that we can win the next game and say true. We want to be at the top of the group. Yeah. Oh, we watched them the other day. We played first game and they played the second game. We watched them, but we can't bring our arsenals for people to see. So we are going to hide it and bring it. We want to surprise them, so we are not coming out with our arsenal.
Abigail, Coach Adakwa says that they are working hard because they want to be on top. You are with the team. Tell us how prepared they are for the game this evening.
This evening is going to be a very lively one, if you're asking, because after Monday, like you rightly said, the minute we got to the game villa, everyone threw that Spa win away and concentrated on AS Monday because we want to make it 9 out of 9. So Tuesday morning we had a little recovery and a shake-up, but yesterday was a full training session for the team, and we had a little scare with Jennifer, who was playing on the wings, but she quickly recovered and has joined the team in full training. For Mariam, for instance, she's still behind time, but we are hoping that today, this evening, the team will be ready again to give our star-spirited performance again.
On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best, how well do you think they are prepared for this?
If there's one thing I've come to love about this team is how they encourage themselves. They had a short meeting yesterday and they pointed out each other's mistakes. And so if I'm going to go by that and how they have responded to training, I'll give Ghana a 9.5.
Looks good for them, doesn't it? But we've seen Hazaka's ladies in the past reach the final. Can Ampem Dakwa ladies go a step further and win the ultimate, do you think?
I think that they'll be able to do that, even from the handler's point of view. Here we are, Jonah Dakwa conquered Ghana, conquered West Africa, and the opportunity has been handed you to conquer Africa. It goes a long way to improve your CV. So right from the head to the last person who even has the opportunity to sit on the bench, they know what it means to win this trophy. And also, remember that if they're able to win this one, it means that the next time this competition will be held, Ghana will have 2 slots. And so we are trying to kill 2 birds with a stone, hoping that we win and also give the chance to another Ghanaian club to come and experience this wonderful competition.
I see. It sounds like their progress means a lot to women's football. Talk to us about that.
I believe that when we're able to get to that point to win the trophy, yes, already when you come here in Ivory Coast, it was wonderful to see how men, children, and women came out to watch the team, and every other person wanted to speak to the girls. It is showing clearly that we are beginning to embrace the game, and it's beautiful to see how Hazaka set the tone in the maiden edition, and Ampem Dakwa is continuing. When it happens this way, CAF and the governing bodies will have a reason to pump more money already. They've done so this time around, giving Ghana their parents' fee of over $100,000. And so that goes a long way to show us that if we do the right things, there are the right people ready to invest and make the game proper. We are taking the ladies out of the kitchen or the mindset where the bus stops with getting married and having children. Now, the ladies can equally have a life if they decide to play football, and if they do so well, clearly they can also go out there, make some cash, and then maybe life without marriage can continue for them.
You make a good point, and this all sounds fantastic. Thank you very much, Abigail. Abigail Sena Sosu there, joining us from Ivory Coast as Ampem Dakwa ladies, make waves in women's football on the continent. And it's fantastic, Mawena, isn't it?
Really is great, because after their victory on Monday, got a lot of people talking. I recall when Hazaka's ladies did it in the last competition, they went as far as the finals. It got a lot of people talking.
Listen, it's got me talking football.
Yeah,
and I wouldn't know a foul from a penalty.
You don't like a lot of football as well, but I mean, it's really great for women football. And like she rightly said, it puts the spotlight, and then it begins to turn the opinion that football is a viable option
Anyway,
for women as well. Because
you want to take us home this afternoon?
Rightly so. That's our bulletin for you, which came to you from our studios here on the John Hammond Street. I am Mawina Igbeta.
And I am Kemeni. I'm on Others More News on 3news.com. We'll see you same time tomorrow. Bye-bye.